Hey, how's it going, guys? So this is your boy Z Hut at his gaming channel, and I'm going to give you a quick review of Assassin's Creed Mirage and just what I thought of it, because I thought it was all right. I thought it was a good story. I thought that the game was very playable. And I think that the developers had a lot of good things going for it. They delivered on going back to the Assassin's Bureau, aka the hidden ones in this game, and making it feel like a basic Assassin's Creed game. So it wasn't too much of any crazy storylines like we had in Odyssey or Valhalla, which I do think, those stories, although they didn't take place as the Assassins, were rather diverse and added different layers to the universe of Assassin's Creed. And spoilers ahead, but I thought that the story was very great. Now, I'm going to spoil some stuff again, so turn back if you don't want it spoiled, but keep watching, or just leave and then come back later after you do finish. But I thought that it was an alright story. Now, obviously, the story was predictable. We all know that Basim, who he is, what he's connected to, what he did in Valhalla, and we had hints of how we are going to be called back to what he is in Valhalla, and that's exactly what the story does. But the question is, how do they execute it? They execute it very well. The assassins try to hide the past from Basim. Basim figures it out, and then he goes about, figures out who he is, and then he reemerges not as Basim, but as Loki. Now, after defeating the Order of the Ancients, which is very small in this one, he goes about and he finds out who he really is, and then you really see the moment where Basim ends and Loki begins, and it's very unsettling. Why do I say that? Because there was at least now a 20 or 10-year period where Basim was actually Loki and was just playing the part of Basim, waiting for him to come across people who he felt wronged him. And you know what this does? This adds a lot more layer to the Valhalla storyline. It makes it make a lot more sense. It sheds a lot of light on that. And I think it was that final puzzle piece that we actually needed. Overall, I like how they executed it. I liked how they tried to stop Basim from becoming Loki, but he had to because he needed to find inner peace. I thought that was very gripping. It was between a rock and a hard place. It was a very gray area event in Basim's life. And you know what? I actually felt for Basim while he was looking for the truth, because when you are broken and you want to figure out who you are meant to be, that is a coming of age tale that everybody has to go about. It is an even bigger mind twist when you find out that Nihal was basically a figure of his imagination the whole time. It was basically the Tyler Durden to his narrator. Like, they got inspiration from Fight Club while they were writing this script. And it all called him back to who he was supposed to be. And I just thought that it was such a gray area, so emotional. You sympathize for all parties at the end of it. And I think that's what counts as how they executed the story, even though we knew what was going to happen. But the amount of emotional investment I had by the end of this game was actually surprising, especially for the low things for this game. But now that I have said that, I do have some things that I would like to say. The game was playable. I had a fun time doing it. There's not a whole lot you could use to diversify games too much. They are basically code with front end over them. But I will say that although this game was entertaining to play and it had some good pickpocketing and it just had a lot of interesting aspects to it, like the notoriety system coming back. They didn't throw as many targets as you, but that's okay because the combat system felt a little more static and a little more clunky, but it also felt a lot less diverse. Now, I understand that Odyssey, Valhalla, Origins had a lot of criticism thrown at them, but one thing I liked about Origins is, yes, you were basically an assassin. You were a Magi, but they became the assassins. But there was a very diverse skill tree. They expanded on that in Odyssey and Valhalla, where you had those 4 different buttons where you could click them and you unlock these certain abilities. They took a lot of that away, and they basically made the skill tree a lot smaller, a lot shorter, and it basically just ties into your normal everyday combat, so you don't have to go to the skill tree to select abilities prerequisite, so you could only use 4 at a time, which was nice. but I will say I do miss the diversity, so I don't really blame the game developers too much, but they really were trying to cut back. You could tell that they were trying to cut back when they did that. Was it a deal breaker? No. Would I have liked to see more diverse stuff in that gameplay? Absolutely. But besides the clunkiness and besides the lack of diverse skills, I still thought the skill tree had a lot of things that you could add to your gameplay to make it more immense. There were some added extras like booby traps that you could set, smoke bombs. Basically, a lot of things that you found in the trailer were used to their fullest in this game. I really wish I had more time to play around with all these tools in unison throughout the story. I mean, I get that they wanted to build Basim up from apprentice to master assassin, but it just felt like it was at the end where I was having the most fun with all those tools at my disposal, especially during the final assassination where I had to infiltrate a palace. I really felt like all those tools came in handy, and I really felt like the game had gave me the feel of coming back into my own. But like I said, it just felt like my options at the beginning and the middle of the game were so limited that I was stuck to like light and heavy attacks and just very few tools to help accelerate my journey and feel like that master assassin, like that deadly weapon that was turned into by the hidden one. Now, do I know that this game was based off of a DLC and was repurposed as a game? Absolutely. You know why? There's only 5 targets in this game. I'm going to get that out of the way right now. But I will say that they made them some actual focused targets with a lot of story where you interacted with a lot of the different characters. Now, am I going to remember all these characters? Absolutely not, but they made them part of the story, and they made hunting for them part of the story. It wasn't just like Odyssey or Valhalla where I had a lot of targets to play around with and go to the map and hunt down targets, which was fun. But in Odyssey and Valhalla, although there were more targets, it didn't feel like there was enough story to where any of the smaller targets of the Cult of Cosmos or the Order of the Ancients and that one I'm going to actually remember. So they stuck to like 5 targets and then really drowned them out. So they brought back you actually getting to know your targets and actually understanding their motives a lot more. It's one of those pick your poison scenarios. I like it either way. Is hunting a lot of targets good? Yes, I like it. It gives me a nice little checklist to go through. But when I actually get to know them in depth, I think it just hits a little bit harder and you see both sides of the coin. So overall, yes, you should pick this game up. But I do want to finish this video with a side note. Although I enjoyed this game, it was very small. It didn't have a huge map, didn't have a whole lot of content, but it did have some memorable moments. It did have things that felt familiar to me. I give the devs benefit of the doubt because there's only so much you could do with a video game. But as small as this game was, I would really like to see them do some add-on DLCs to give Basim's middle years. That would be very nice. Because a game this short and small shouldn't be the norm for Assassin's Creed. We had 2 years between Odyssey and Valhalla, or at least 3, and then we had like around 3 to 2 year period for Mirage. It just didn't feel like 2 years worth of work. It felt like more like a year's worth of work, followed by pushing the game back, where I don't think the pushbacks of these game dates, because this game got pushed back a lot. Like it was pushed back on the calendar multiple times. I do not think that it needed to be pushed back this much just because the amount of content in there didn't justify the wait. So we need to avoid stuff like this in the future. And I'm going to say that as an Assassin's Creed fan who wants to enjoy these games, who really wants to have Ubisoft succeed and not get a bad reputation, of making the same repetitive content over and over again, because they are better than that. But I do want to see some DLCs to draw out a little more exposition from the story, which would be really nice. Keep the story going a little bit more. We undoubtedly are going to have some of these. I mean, I'm probably going to get a season pass if they have one, because usually we need to give them time to give us more content, which undoubtedly they will do. But game at launch, just not a whole lot of content. So it would be really nice if you did something similar like what you did today with Mirage, but give it the same amount of content and love that you did with Valhalla and things like Odyssey, because those worlds were beautiful, diverse, vibrant, a lot of sights to see. I was so limited with this one that I felt a little boxed in. So like I said, that's just my thoughts. I give this game probably a 7 out of 10. If you give me more content to give me more emotional, gripping story that follows an exposition to the end, then you know what? I might give this like a 9 out of 10 just because it was nice to be back in the assassin's shoes. Did it feel like the content was super thin? Yes, but if you added more over time, I would be more than willing to forgive. That's my thoughts. If you want to go pick it up, please go pick it up, and I will see you guys next time.